The Grim Tale of Grace Macabre, Chapter 47. Despite accepting that supernatural events were happening to her, Grace bristled with anger at Sarah's accusation. That's absurd. How can you say such a thing about Ari and his family? They have been wonderful and kind to me, and their acceptance has changed my life. Sarah did not flinch from Grace's anger. They haven't accepted you. They have targeted you, she said. They know the destiny laid out for you, and they fear you. Grace stuck a finger in Sarah's face. All this is nonsense. There's no such thing as destiny. I choose to do what I want, when I want, and how I want. And Ari and his family love me, and they accept me. Sarah gently but firmly pushed aside the hand that Grace had thrust in her face. They want to corrupt you before you realize the power you have, the purpose you have, your destiny. Then they will be able to use you in their war. What in the world are you talking about? Grace demanded. There's no war, and there is no such thing as destiny. You're wrong, Grace. We all have a destiny, a specific purpose. Yours is to seek out demons and other dark creatures and kill them. This is insane, Grace said. She looked at Ian, who had pushed himself up in his bed. He looked pale. Even though a week had passed, he was still feeling pain from the gunshot in the surgery. I'm supposed to kill demons and other dark creatures? Do you believe any of this? Ian took a moment to consider his response. Well, look at the box with the dragonfly. I can't deny that it came out of my dream, and that compels me to believe in the supernatural. And considering all the strange things that happen in this town, why would it not be possible for monsters to exist? So, yes, if it is possible that monsters exist, then I believe it's possible that you're supposed to fight them. Grace closed her eyes and shook her head. I don't want to believe any of this. Really? Ian said. I think it's totally badass. You're both crazy, Grace said, turning to Sarah. Prove all this to me. Okay, Sarah replied. I had the same destiny as you. I also met the runaways, but instead of Ari, it was Barba that seduced me. They fed me that whole story of free will and made me a partner in their club that they owned on the outskirts of my town. I fell for it and I suffered greatly. I call bull on that, Grace shot back. The runaways have been here in Nevermore for a whole year. It was 2 years ago on Halloween, Grace, in Port Allen, Louisiana. I was a 16-year-old lonely, shy girl dreaming of a life beyond the small town. They approached me and seduced me the same way they're seducing you. I fell for it. I was chosen to seek out monsters like them and kill them, but I chose the wrong side. Look it up if you don't believe me. Go ahead. Search for my name, Sarah Graves. You'll find my obituary. You'll see where they buried me. Ian snatched his phone from the bedside table and tapped in a search. Okay. How is this possible? He said, looking up from his phone at Sarah. What? Grace asked. Sarah nodded at Ian to continue. I'm looking at a news story from Port Allen. It shows her picture and says that she was found murdered. They buried her, Grace. We're talking to a dead girl. Grace snatched the phone from Ian and scrolled through the story. And I'm supposed to believe all this? Yes, Sarah said. I'm here to guide you so you don't make the same mistakes I made. I need you to believe me when I say that Ari does not love you. They are terrified of you. Grace took a deep breath to clear her head. She needed to think this all through. Even though she was in love with Ari, she could not ignore the fact that all these supernatural events, including this new fact about Sarah, all added up to something beyond normal experience. Okay, Grace said, let's say I set aside my disbelief. If they fear me, why make me part of their group? Why take me in and treat me like family? It's like I've been telling you, Sarah replied. They lured you in so they could corrupt you. They would have eventually helped you realize your powers. Then they would have tried to use you to do some very dark things. And if you're telling me the truth, Grace said, not that I completely believe you, what if I refuse to help them? A pained expression clouded Sarah's face. If they are unsuccessful in corrupting you, they will kill you in a ritual sacrifice, just like they killed me. I was their dark sacrifice. Every year on Halloween night, they perform a dark ritual which either corrupts one of us or ends in our sacrifice, depending on whether or not we choose to use our powers for them. One of us? Grace asked. Yes, Sarah said. Those of us who have this ability, this calling to stand up to these dark forces. I don't think there are many of us, and you may even be the last. I was getting all these strange signs just like you are that showed me there is an evil paranormal realm. I ignored them and let Barba and his group lure me in with sweet talk and wealth. They told me I was pretty and made me a partner in their club, and when I realized they were demons and resisted, they murdered me. But if we're so special and they are so afraid of us, why not just immediately kill us? Grace asked. Because there's power in our corruption, Sarah responded. If they could turn us before we realize our abilities, they could use us to do terrible things. But if they can't corrupt us, they still gain power from sacrificing us in one of their dark rituals. As fantastical as this sounded, the evidence was indisputable. Too many strange things had happened in such a short time span. And if she were to be honest with herself, deep down, Grace knew that her acceptance into the runaway seemed too good to be true. Too easy. Grace had to seriously consider that the love of her life was a monster. She nearly groaned with heartache. They also sacrifice normal kids who do not have our abilities, Sarah explained. They don't draw as much power from it, but they will abduct children they find suitable, and I fear they may be planning a sacrifice tonight. That's terrible, Ian said. Are they the ones who have been taking the children here in town? No, Sarah said. The runaways are not the only monsters in this town. The crawling man is real, and he has been taking most of the missing children. However, I know that the runaways abducted 2 little girls a few days ago. They took them from Savannah. Grace's blood ran cold. Ari had just returned from a trip to Savannah. The thought of Ari abducting and killing children made her stomach churn. I don't think I can deal with all this. What we're up against is powerful, Sarah said, continuing. And while it is you who is called to step up and lead the fight, you won't be alone. Ian pushed himself up in bed and winced as pain shot through his chest. Color drained from his face, leaving him pale and sweating. He took a moment to let the pain fade and to catch his breath. When his color returned, he said, Are you saying that I'm going to get to help you guys fight a group of demons? Sarah turned to him. Yes, if you want to. Ian smiled. Heck yeah, I wouldn't miss this. But you need to understand that this is very dangerous business, Sarah replied. You were already nearly killed, and we might all end up dead before this is over. Ian's smile didn't fade. I'm ready. Let's kick some demon butt, but if they already killed you, how are you here? Sarah shrugged. I don't know, to be honest. I woke up a few weeks ago lying beside my tombstone in a graveyard in Port Allen. I remembered everything that happened before I died, and I had all kinds of new information and understanding about the supernatural realm. I can't explain why, but I knew I had to come to Nevermore Hollows. On my first day in town, I passed Grace on the sidewalk when she went into Misfits Coffee, and I immediately knew she was the reason I was here. So I started coming to school and keeping an eye on her. You enrolled yourself in school? Ian asked. No, Sarah said, smiling. I just came to school every day and went to class. It was surprisingly easy. The teachers just believed me when I told them I had transferred, and they never even asked anyone in school administration. Well, I guess we can thank overcrowded classrooms for that, Ian said. Grace shook her head to clear it. This was all moving way too fast. I need time to think. There is no time, Sarah shot back. You need to decide now, the patch or the pen. What does that even mean? Grace asked. Her patience was wearing thin. It's like I tried to explain to you in the dream garden, Sarah replied. The oikos patch represents family. Family is being part of something bigger than yourself. Family is worth protecting, worth fighting for. And then Justin used his pen to write his angst in his journal instead of reaching out to his family for support. Now, keeping a journal can be beneficial in dealing with life, but in this case, there was no one else he felt he could reach out to, and the pressure just built until he snapped. I'm not sure I follow this, Grace said. It's a metaphor, Sarah explained. The pen leads to death. The patch leads to life. And the trees in the dream are also metaphors. The beautiful tree was rotten and would have corrupted you, but the old and twisted tree looked less desirable but created life and joy. Now it's time for you to choose. Grace did not want to choose. She needed time to think, to put her thoughts in order. She wanted to present this crazy story to Ari and watch him laugh it all off as a deluded scheme cooked up by Sarah to tear them apart. What is it that makes me doubt all this is real, she thought. But the runaways are a family, Grace said. Sarah shook her head. No, they aren't. They are a perversion of what family is supposed to be. But none of us are family, Grace said, pointing to Ian and Sarah. Maybe not by blood, Ian said. He had mustered his strength and now stood beside the bed. But my loyalty to you isn't superficial. I will stand with you as if you are my family. Grace closed her eyes and rubbed her hands over her face. Her mind jumped from one moment to the other in which she had spent with Ari and the runaways. She could now see certain facts had bothered her, yet she had shoved them deep down into her mind, not willing to see them for what they were. They were signs that the runaways were more than they seemed. The first was that their living arrangements were so far out of the norm, even in this modern hedonistic society. Grace had to admit that Neffy and Ari seemed to share a bond that went further than mere friendship or family. It was more intimate than a brother and sister connection. It even seemed sexual at times. The fact that they were all partners in the nightclub with some mysterious man was strange. The fact that they were all rich and could afford wildly expensive art and wine at such a seemingly young age was difficult to believe. The wine, she thought. What was the name of that wine that was so amazing? Prince de Ténèbres, the Prince of Darkness. I see you're starting to put it together, Sarah said. Grace remembered the drugs that the runaways had given the partiers. Truly, good people would not enable others to get high and lose self-control and participate in embarrassing displays of hedonism like she had seen in the club. She felt anger at allowing herself to be led so far astray. However, she could not take the final step in believing that Ari was a demon bent on her destruction. Just before you left Ari this morning to come here, you asked him if he knew what agape meant, Sarah said. How did you know that? Grace demanded. Sarah reached up and pushed her thick-rimmed glasses further up her nose. That word is powerful, Grace. It means that someone is willing to lay down their life to save others. It is a call to stand against evil, and evil things don't like that word at all. Ari's reaction to that word was intense. Was it not? Yes, Grace said. He claimed to have been stung by a bee, Sarah said. Correct? Yes, Grace said, nodding her head. I snuck into the club last night, Sarah pressed. I saw them put you in Ari's car and figured he was taking you to their house. I knew they wouldn't harm you yet, but followed you both there anyway. I hid in the forest, and this morning I was keeping watch when you were sitting at breakfast, and I was able to record him as he ran away. Grace, let me show you what really happened when you said that word. Sarah pulled up the recording on her phone. Grace was filled with anxiety at what she was about to witness. The video showed Ari running from her after she had said the word agape. From her new perspective, she was able to see that his handsome face had transformed into something so hideous that she cried out in fear. She covered her eyes with her hands to block out the gruesome image. No, she cried, desperately trying to recall the beautiful Ari, not the scaly, half-human thing that ran toward the house. No, this can't be true. Think about it, Grace, Sarah said. He is a demon, and you know it's true. Grace refused to remove her hands from her eyes in fear that she would have to look at that monstrosity again. She was heartbroken and disgusted that she had held him close, mortified that she had kissed him. Her stomach clenched, then heaved. She bent over and vomited in a small trash can. Ian stood by the bed, worry on his face. Are you okay? What is it? What happened? Sarah handed Ian the phone and he watched the video. Oh, he said. That's... He trailed off at a loss for words. Grace felt herself walking toward Ian. She found herself reaching out for him, desperate for comfort. Without hesitation, he took her in his arms, and she sobbed. Ian did not say a word, nor did he allow her to see the immense pain that was caused by their embrace. He simply held her.